Is your debt causing you sleepless nights? Knock your debt out with Debt KO. And your debt won't be the only thing keeping you up at night. Debt KO. Free, impartial advice on all your debt.
This is something that comes along every now and then in generation, and it's special.
Razabani for IFL TV in association with MTK Global. With me from sunny Sheffield or Rotherham, Mr. Dave Coldwell. Dave, sun's out, guns out. How are you?
Sun was out a little bit, but guns are definitely not out because it's freezing.
How are you? How's the family? How are the kids? Everyone well?
Very good, thanks very much. Yeah. We're not too bad, thank you. We're 10 days away from Christmas, so there's a lot of last minute, well, not last minute, but a few bits and bats of Christmas shopping to do and things like that. But we're getting there.
What's your status? Is it tier 2 or tier 3? I'm not sure.
Well, 3 until I believe that, I'm hoping to change it day after tomorrow. I think it's day after tomorrow, or is it tomorrow? No, it's tomorrow, isn't it? Yeah, it's tomorrow. So I'm hoping that they change it, but who knows, mate? It just seems forever. We were saying, obviously we was in the lockdown and the tears, and it's just the same as everybody. You kind of like fed up of it and just want this year done. Even he's fed up of it.
Well, London, we're going to cheer tomorrow.
Yes, I heard that. But mate, these lockdowns and tears and everything, they don't, to me, I still see these numbers. The numbers are still there. They're still, they keep putting these restrictions and saying this and saying that, but the numbers are still there. So whatever they're doing, it's not really an answer for. Shut that door. Cheers. So it's a difficult one, isn't it? It's like we had a boxing show, a bit of football going on down London, and now all of a sudden that's closed off, and that's it. And
I was going to say, we're lucky we got the AJ fight last week, because if it was this week,
yeah,
there'd be no fans.
Yeah. And do you know what? What a difference that made, didn't it? It's just in the ring walks, introductions, before that, the thing, it might only have been 1,000 people, but it sounded wicked. It really did. And, British fight fans, they can create an atmosphere. When you're at small or boxing and there's only a few hundred people there, they still create good atmospheres, But that atmosphere at that show, it was great to hear. It was great to come across on the TV. We just need more of it now.
Absolutely. Let's talk about Anthony Joshua. Dave came out after over a year out of the ring after his victorious fight against Andy Ruiz. How did you assess his performance, and what did you make of his 9th-round stoppage?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. You know what? I enjoyed the fight. I'll be honest with you. I was impressed with a lot of what he did. It's still a learning process for him. He might be heavyweight champion of the world, but he's still evolving as a fighter. He's still developing as a fighter. So he's still adding new bits to his game. So he's not the finished article. So things aren't going to be smooth and flawless. But what he's adding lately, I like what he's doing, and he mixed a bit of the boxing, the brains, thinking about what he's doing, with still that ruthlessness and the vicious assaults that he did. The 3rd round was phenomenal, and he put a lot of power punches together in that round. I think he thought it was gone. It got him. And if you were a super bantamweight featherweight, you'd feel that. You would feel the effects of that. It would knock the edge off you. So a big man like that is gonna feel it. I felt that from the 4th round on, from the end of that assault in the 3rd round, from the 4th round onwards, for a good 2 or 3 rounds there, I feel that he felt a little bit heavier legged. Perhaps that took away, because the sharpness of legs weren't there. It took the sharpness of everything else it was doing for the first couple of rounds. Took a little bit of edge off that, but that's to be expected. But he kept his composure, kept his smarts, and waited until the opportunity came, and then took him out in spectacular fashion. So He done well. He done well.
You mentioned it, Dave, about that third round where he went all guns blazing, tried to knock him out, and then he took a few rounds off. Now, what's that down to? Because he didn't get hit back, so he didn't take any shots. So what was that? How did that tiredness come into you? Because he's got probably the best training team, the best science behind him, strength and conditioning behind him, and surely you practice all of these things in your sparring and your training. So what makes you so tired where he was hardly even throwing his jab between rounds 4, 5, and 6?
No, but you see, it can be a number of things. It can be a number of things. Some fighters just, when they put the foot down on the pedal, they take a lot longer than other fighters in order to recover. You know, you can say that about you know, not in the lighter weights. You know, some fighters have got engines on them where they go and go and go, and some fighters they have to box at their own pace and be comfortable at their own pace. It can be down to being comfortable and being relaxed. When I say comfortable, I mean relaxed. Relaxed in your attacks, relaxed in the pace that you set. But then when you, if you look at that third round, from being all relaxed and being sharp shooting and smooth, when you get somebody in trouble, then you start looking for the finish, you start tightening up, and because everything's forced, you're burning a lot more energy and you're incurring a lot more fatigue. And once that lactic acid builds up, some people can deal with lactic acid better than others, and some people, you know, they can perform even though that's flushing through them, and you know, they have a higher threshold, you know, and others have a lower rate. It's just a lot of it I think might be down to being relaxed and then loading up, because we can all, you know, anybody that's fit, when they start just loading up on every shot and start banging away on things like that, you know, you do it on a heavy bag, you can just be relaxed and throw hard shots, good crisp hard shots, and keep on going and going and going. If you really empty the tank and add a 30-second burst where you really throw everything at it, you're absolutely fucked, you know. It's how it is. But like I said, every fighter is different. Some fighters can punch really hard. Some fighters can't. Some fighters can take a really good shot. Some fighters can't. Some fighters can empty a tank and then recover quicker. Others can't. And you know, there's so many different things. And it's hard to say when you don't watch people train. You know, but like I said, he's learning on the job. You know, when you're saying about you prepare for it in sparring and things like that. I mean, is it often that he would, in sparring, go like that and, you know, really go through gears and really empty the tank out? Because it's sparring, you don't tend to do that really, you know, a lot. You know, sparring partners, you catch them. And I know with Bellew, you know, if Bellew were a sparring partner, they'd be like, oh, hang on a minute, you're all right, mate. You won't go and to finish. So do you really take yourself to that level in sparring? Some fighters might do that. You know, as you see clips of, you know, was it Amo Williams or whatever, you know, taking advantage of sparring partners. Some people might do that, but I haven't seen that in my gym. So when you're talking about you prepare for it, that's still alien to what you would do in a fight if you don't do it in sparring. I know you go up through gears and you put shots together through, you know, but he really went for it, and that's something that in a fight you do. You know, you think you got a man in trouble, you're a little bit smart to start off with, but then you really know that your man's in trouble, and you think, I can stop this. And it really did look like the ref was going to stop it at any time. He let it go quite a while, you know. Even with Pulev turning his back and things like that, you think that's it, the fight's going to end now, get rid of him. So you kind of like rolled the dice a little bit. So I think he did really well to actually recover from that, because it really emptied the tank. But the problem that you have is when you do empty your tank and you want to have that little bit of rest and be able to buy some time to get your second wave, your second wind. If your opponent can make you work, that's when you don't recover, and that's when it's very difficult. And Pulev, thankfully, even though he was still there and still walking forward, he was still trying to press. He didn't have it about himself to do that. AJ controlled that time really, really well. So that again for me is a positive in that fight, because he controlled the distance and he controlled what was going off in the ring to the point where he could ride it out, get himself a little bit sharp again, and then like I said, the finish was fantastic. That right hand was so sharp.
Kubrat Pulev was trying to goad Anthony Joshua at the weigh-in. Never seen Anthony react like that with anyone in the past. And even in the ring, every time he got hit with a punch, he was making these facial expressions, like, come on, bring it on. He proved he's still got a hell of a chin. But you mentioned there the third round where he turned his back. Should that have been stopped?
Yeah, I mean, I expected it to have been stopped then. If you turn, and he really did turn it back. It's not like it just spun round. He literally turned his back and walked away to a corner. So yeah, it should have been stopped there. And then we're talking about a third round stoppage victory, and you wouldn't be talking about anything that happened in rounds 4, 5, or whatever. We would have been saying the first 2 rounds, or I'd have been saying the first 2 rounds. What he did, I loved seeing that addition to his game and how much better he seemed to be in a boxing sense. And then he came out with that finish, and then that's it, brilliant. But the fact that he emptied his tank and then had to come out, you can look at it from a point of view, oh yeah, but he dipped, he didn't even throw his jab, he didn't even do this, blah, blah. But then you can also look at it and say, well, okay, he emptied his tank, but he kept his shit together. Didn't just press the panic button and start trying to take him out of one shot. Use his brain a little bit, and controlled what was going off to the point where it allowed him to be at a pace where he could recover until he could go again. So that is actually a plus point. The negative point is that if I'm somebody like a Tyson Fury, I would want to make AJ work as much as he can, and when he's trying to, you would nullify his work and things like that. But when he's trying to get his breather, put it on him, and you wouldn't allow him to work. I just think that there's so many. The thing is, with these two fighters, there are so many things in them where this is why it makes such a great fight, and that's why kind of like every time each one of them fights, you're overanalyzing and trying to look at any weaknesses to think, well, the other man can exploit, because that's what we do when we have a big fight. We want to see how do each man win. So you can be a bit nitpicky and you be a bit hypercritical sometimes, and it's boxing. It's part of what makes boxing so alluring.
As you mentioned, the world wants to see this fight, Fury and Joshua. But do you feel like since Fury's last fight with Deontay Wilder, it becomes more difficult to analyze him as a fighter? Because previously he was kind of known as a fighter. It goes on the back foot, controls the distance with his jab, feints a lot. With Wilder, if you remember in the first round, he ran to the center of the ring and bullied Wilder. So there's more question now. Yeah. How is Fury going to come out to this fight? Or even if Fury was to come in heavy, can he still do what he did to Deontay Wilder to Anthony Joshua, considering Anthony Joshua is a heavier heavyweight than Deontay Wilder?
I don't think that the weight issue is an issue really as far as what AJ is going to weigh. How will that affect Tyson Fury? I don't think that'll, because Tyson Fury is a big man. He's a big man, and it's not. I always say about this: muscles don't win fights, and so just because if AJ is 17.2 or if he's 17.5 or whatever he's going to be weighing, that sort of weight difference, I don't think is going to make much of a difference in the fight, because AJ is going to forget about the boxing side of things. Punching power and punches landed. If AJ can get to Fury, he has the power to knock him out, because if Fury's been down before in the past. So if somebody like a Steve Cunningham can drop Fury, then Anthony Joshua can drop Fury. The problem is Joshua's got to get into that sort of range, that sort of positioning in order to get those shots off. Now, his boxing IQ seems to be rapidly improving, and he's disguising a lot of things better. He's adding more to his game, so he's not as one-dimensional as what he used to be. And like I said, he's improving. So by the time that the Tyson Fury fight happens, I expect him to be even better. But he's still learning on the job. Whereas I feel that as a boxer, naturally, Tyson Fury has the edge. I think as a fighter, as in tear-up wise, I think perhaps that's where Joshua has the edge. But also, Fury can box going forwards and going backwards against a big man, a long-arm man. So forget about forget the weight of Joshua. I don't feel that Joshua's like against the bigger men, except for instance against Klitschko. I mean, it's a while since I watched that fight, but I can't seem to remember how Joshua was the physically stronger man because of his size and whatever. I think if I remember rightly, I think Klitschko was the one that was holding the center ring for the majority of the fight. Might be wrong. I can't remember. But in terms of a physical fight, if it becomes a physical bit of pulling and wrestling, I would favour Fury to take more out of Joshua on that terms, because Fury is very, very relaxed and he knows what he's doing in those moments. Again, when you're learning, you're adding things to your game, it's not as effortless as when you've grown up doing that kind of shit all day, all night, every single day. It's ingrained. And that's where I think Fury has the edge, is because he's, as a boxer, thinking about what he's going to do, whether he wants to box southpaw, orthodox, back foot, whatever, just take things away. He's more natural at that sort of thing. So it's intriguing. There's so many different aspects to it. Like I said, AJ is improving. It really is improving. But it's one of those where everything has to be thought about as it's happening, and he has to hold his discipline together. And because, like we saw the other night, is when that goes out the window and he starts, loading on shots, and the minute the tank goes a little bit, and the legs aren't quite as sharp, then it has a knock-on effect on everything else. And if that's the key towards the fight, then everything has to be spot on for Joshua to do everything right to win the fight. Whereas I feel as though Fury's a guy, if the way that he throws his shots, if he misses a few, it doesn't really take a lot out of him. When he's because he's very relaxed. He's very relaxed in the ring, and you can be, you can be a great boxer, you can be a great fighter, but if you're not as relaxed in the ring, if you're not as relaxed, it means you're not as comfortable with any sort of situation that's happening. When you see fighters that are quite tense getting out of the way, and you see fighters that are just nice and relaxed, just slipping and bobbing, they're not burning as much energy. They're not, there's so many different facets to this fight. I can't wait to see it. It's not a case of who I think is going to win. I just want to see the fight.
You said you can't wait to see it. Let's hope it happens. There's a lot of people doubt that this fight happens. What do you make of the WBO situation, Dave? They've come out and basically have said that, Eddie, we've given you, twice we've allowed you to step aside, and you had the Ruiz rematch, and then you had the IBF mandatory. What our agreement was. Eddie's come out and said, well, he's in the right to the WBO and all the governing body, and say, do you want to be part of the biggest heavyweight fight? We always complain about the governing bodies, about how they don't follow regulation, they're slow, they don't know what they're doing, they're behind, etc., etc. The WBO are now clearly saying, well, we've allowed you twice. You're now asking for a third exception, which we can't, unless you agree a deal with Usyk. And Usyk's team have come out and said, no, we want Joshua next. Because I think everyone realizes that the more Joshua fights, the better he becomes. I think that's just natural. But is it better for Joshua to fight Usyk for his percent? Because, Usyk hits, moves, he gets out of the way very quickly like Fury. So would it help Joshua if he went and fought Usyk first, then goes back for Fury?
I think because, again, it's only my opinion, but because I look at Joshua and I think to me, he looks like he's a fighter that's improving. At 31, I think he is, or whatever, world champion, he's improving on the job. So give him another camp, give him another fight, he's going to improve. A fight with Usyk, he comes through that, he will have learned so much from being in the ring with Usyk, the little things that Usyk does and having to deal with that. It's going to make him a better fighter, which ultimately prepares him more for when he gets in with Fury, because you can't go in from, well, you can, but what I'm saying is, when you're talking about fighters, Ruiz, Pulev, Klitschko even, Parker, Dillian White, go through his resume, fantastic resume there is, there's not one fighter there that boxes anything like Tyson Fury. And to prepare in sparring for a fighter like Tyson Fury, there aren't many fighters out there that like Tyson Fury. I'm talking about style-wise, to go with the height, to go with the reach, to go with the weight. There aren't very many. So to prepare for that style is very difficult. So if you're saying, right, okay, that's going to be the next fight, he's going to be in camp 12 weeks or whatever, 15 weeks, whatever he does, I don't know. But he's got that X amount of weeks to find the right sparring, then to work on the sparring for that length of time. Whereas when you've been in a fight situation with somebody who is, I'm not saying Usyk and can you show us that door, please? Cheers, love. If you can get somebody in a fight situation that can give you certain problems, Usyk will give him angles, Fury will give him angles. Usyk will give him feints, Fury will give him feints. Fury might go southpaw, Usyk's a southpaw. It's just little elements that you can take things away, can learn. The patience as well, because he may miss a while against something like Usyk. He's going to miss a while against Fury. So again, just little things that you can take away from him, where it can add to his experience to go into that fight. Because I just think the difference between the guys that he's fought and Tyson Fury, style-wise, forget about ability-wise and how good they are, whatever. I'm talking about style-wise. I think there's a big difference. So I know it's a risk. It's a real risk because Usyk's a very, very good fighter. But I would look at Usyk and think, at heavyweight, the two fights he's had at heavyweight, does he look the same manner that he was at cruiserweight? I don't think he does. I think there's a lot less going off. He gives you a lot less problems. And the fact that AJ is also improving, he's not just his hands there and just bog standard, which somebody of Usyk style would love. Now AJ is doing a lot more non-punching activity. He would be a difficult fight for Usyk as well. So yeah, it would be a good thing, But obviously, you're running a risk of the fight of Usyk winning and blowing the big Fury fight.
If the WBO do not allow the step aside or do not allow Joshua to fight Fury, and Joshua then says, I don't want to give up a belt, but Usyk is saying, well, then you have to fight me. Will Joshua get criticism for taking the Usyk? Of course he
will. Joshua's going to get criticism no matter what.
Because also, Dave, when you look at the classic fights, you look at just 15, 20 years, Tyson Lewis, Hagler Hearns, Rumble in the Jungle, Thriller Manila. When you look at these fights, you don't remember them for the belts that were on the line. You remember them for the athletes that were there. So is it even important if Usyk says, I'm not stepping aside, I want to fight you, Joshua should then just say, okay, take the belt. You can go fight Joe Joyce or whoever. I'm going for Fury because the time's now for us to fight and the fight's bigger than the belts.
Okay, so here, it depends on what Joshua's ambition is. It's obviously not money because he's got all money in the world, right? So does he want to give himself the best chance possible of holding all the belts? So fight Usyk next, and then I've still got my WBO, and then fight for the WBC. then you've got all the belts. If that's his mission, if that's what he wants to do, he wants to hold all the belts, then I can understand that if the WBO say, no, you have to fight Usyk, and Usyk says, no, I won't take a step aside money, you have to fight me, then understand, fair enough. Take that, if that's what it's going to be, do that. Fury has a fight in between as well, which I'm sure he'll be happy to. He'll fight anybody, he's not bothered. So Fury has a fight in between himself, for himself, and then they fight after that one. It's all it is you're talking about a delay. You're not saying he's saying no, he's ducking the fight. He's like, okay, if that's what he wants to do is keep hold of the belt, then fair enough. So, I think the whole I know what you're saying. The belts don't mean shit ultimately, but they kind of do, because the whole thing between two British fighters fighting for every belt, fighting for everything, two British fighters, that's massive. That's something special, and that is something that, as it's hard for us to say, oh yeah, well, it's not really important. These guys are there. Fury's got one belt. AJ's got all those belts. He just wants one more and he's got a full collection. So that must mean something to him. Don't forget, he's a multi-millionaire. He's done what he's done, but yet he still has the motivation and the drive to get up. Even when he's on holiday, he's training. He keeps himself in shape. He never looks fat and out of shape. He never looks like he switches off as such. Tapers that he does ticks over, but he's always got his mind on improving. Always got his mind on training. What is it that drives that? Is it because he wants to win every belt out there? So therefore, who are we to turn around and say, oh, you should give up the belt. You shouldn't be bothered about the belt. It's what it is. It's how these fighters are driven and motivated.
Well, let's see. I'm sure time will tell. Eddie's come out already and said that he's had some positive conversation with Bob Arum. So let's see.
I think the main thing is if they box that agreement off between Fury and AJ, then Eddie's got to just simple as anything. How badly do you want to make the fight? If Usyk's saying, I don't want step aside, everybody's got a price. Everybody's got a price. If you're going to Usyk and saying, here's X amount of million, step aside, let us take this fight, you guaranteed you get the winner. Are you telling me if I have a good few million just for sitting and watching or being on an undercard against somebody that I want to pick, are you telling me that I'm not going to take it? I kind of think he would. I just think that Usyk's in a very, very strong position, and I think his management's in a very, very strong position where they can say, no, I'm not taking step aside money. Bob Arum and Eddie and MTK and everybody sits down and discusses the fight. They get their end sorted. Once they get their end sorted, the fight's happening. It's done. Shit, we've got Usyk. What will it take then for Usyk to say, okay, go ahead? And Usyk sits there and says, no, no, no. And the price goes up and up and up. And it goes to a point where Usyk goes, okay. And the promoters say, there you go. Final offer, there you go. Take it or leave it. I'm sure if that offer's good enough, I'm sure he'll take it.
No, absolutely. And only time will tell. Dave, just before I let you go, another one of our Brits in action this weekend. Callum-Smith taking on arguably one of the great fighters of our time in Canelo.
What a fight.
Would you say this is Canelo's toughest fight outside of 160?
Yeah, definitely. And listen, Kovalev's great fighter. Kovalev was a great fighter, but Kovalev wasn't Kovalev when we knew him and when he was a monster, when he was the beast. Andre Ward took something away from Kovalev, and he's an older man now, and I'm not taking anything away from the win, but Callum-Smith's at his peak, and listen, he's not fought the guys that Canelo's fought. He's not fought the elite guys, so we don't actually know how good he is at his peak. But if he's as good as what everybody's been talking about him to be for years, and if he's as good as how he looks when he's on form on fight night and how he puts his shots together, then he is definitely Canelo's toughest test. And he's the most dangerous man out there for him. as in danger, as in he hits hard enough to hurt you. He's a great body puncher himself. You know, he's a good counter puncher as well. And he's got that height and reach where he's going to look massive in there. But he has to make it count. And from what I've seen of Callum in the past, he doesn't always let his height and reach count. A lot of times he allows the fighters, or he likes to engage up close. He likes it to be in there. But I don't know if he can do that with Canelo. You know, it's going to be interesting. It's a great fight. I can't wait. It's where you want to see in that division. That's an elite level fight. That is.
Obviously, Joe has been dying for Callum to get this fight for a long time. We've seen how Canelo has struggled with the tall, rangy fighters in the past. We saw Lara giving problems. We've seen Coldwell even was winning a lot of rounds until he got...
Coldwell was definitely giving problems. But in that fight, it always looked like Canelo knew what he was doing throughout that fight. He never looked like he was bothered about, you know...
Just like the Amir Khan fight, where he was losing the full fight.
Yeah. But this fight isn't going to be like that because, you know, you've not got a fighter in front of you that's just going to unravel, you know, that's shown before he can just unravel. You know, Callum's a tough kid as well. You know, he's not only can he dish out, he's a tough kid as well. This is very intriguing. It really is. It's going to be, you know, also it's what affects, because we know that Canelo is not really a super middleweight. Not really. You know, I would say he's probably his optimal weight is middleweight. But no, it's probably unfair. No, he's probably between that. I think he's one of these that's in between middle and super middleweight, where he's probably his best weight would be. But I don't know if he, you know, when he lands those crunching left hooks on Callum, it'll be interesting to see what sort of effect that they have, because there's a lot of body to aim for. And you know he can put them together really, really well. But Callum, it's hard enough himself, and if Callum gets the respect, punching wise, from Canelo, then this is going to be interesting, because Canelo's always going to then be playing catch up, trying to get past that reach. That's why I think Callum's jab's so important in this. His jab and his control of distance is so important in this fight.
We wish Callum all the best on Saturday night. But
100%.
I'll end with this, Dave. Triple G fights on Friday, and it does look like DAZN are trying to push this trilogy with Canelo and Triple G. Is there even any interest in this fight? Or is it just the networks? Because Triple G's getting older. We saw his fight against Lomachenko, where he didn't look great. Are you interested in seeing a trilogy?
No, I'm not, because for the reason that after the second fight, I said right from the start, if they fight again, I think Canelo stops him, because Triple G looks like he's getting old. And there's nothing to suggest since then, with the time that's happened since that, anything change in my mind. So, and I won't want to see that for Golovkin, to be honest. I like Golovkin. So yeah, I'm not really interested in that fight. You know, it's one of those, we've seen two great fights, two really, really good fights in them. I don't think that the third will be anywhere near as good.
Okay, Dave, thank you so much for giving me a little bit of time this afternoon.
Cheers, mate.
Middle of the afternoon. I appreciate it as always. Stay well, stay safe, keep supporting Liverpool, and we'll catch up with you soon. Dave, IFL TV, thank you very much.
See you later.
It's along every now and then in generation, and this special.
Is your debt causing you sleepless nights? Knock your debt out with Debt KO. And your debt won't be the only thing keeping you up at night. Debt KO, free, impartial advice on all your debt.